Hey guys, Matt Numrich here. I want to welcome you to this video. This video we're a little bit different on today because we're on the ground, obviously, so we're going to be covering some ground fighting. Let me talk about ground fighting real quick. If you talk about ground fighting, it is one of the 5 areas of self-defense. You know, if you talk about self-defense, and let's say you have 1,000 different street fights, and you would take one little photo, one little picture in each one of those 1,000 street fights, you're going to be able to categorize that photo in one of these 5 areas. The first area of self-defense is kickboxing range. That's when we have a little bit of distance between us and the opponent, mainly using our punches and kicks. Close quarters is the second area, where now we're a little bit closer. We could use things like eye rakes, elbows, knees, headbutts. The third area is what we call ground fighting, which is obviously what we're going to be talking about today. But then don't forget, we also have weapons. When we talk about weapons, we're talking about all 3 areas or all 3 types of weapons defense. So it's impact defense, edge defense, and also projectile defense as well. Last but not least, we have mass attack or multiple opponents, how to fight more than one person at a time. With all that being said, the reason why I'm bringing all that up is because even though in this video we're talking specifically about ground fighting, I want to remind you guys, we talk about ground fighting, especially when it relates to true self-defense and street fighting, we want to make sure that we do not end up down the ground. That is our first goal. But if we do end up down the ground, our goal is to get up to our feet. Now, just because I say those 2 things, those rules are nice, easy, and simple, but sometimes we get down the ground. We get somebody to mount our chest right there and start raining down fists and punches on our face. It's not that easy just to get on up. So that's why I want to go ahead and I want to take this video out right here of how do we maximize each and every position down the ground. Now, when I talk about maximizing it, all it means is that we can get into position, but then we can maximize it so we maximize our leverage, our weight distribution, our options, and things like that. And that's really what this video is all about. Just because we go ahead and we say ground fighting is great, but we don't want to end up down there, doesn't mean we shouldn't be training it. It's actually the exact opposite. Because we end up down the ground, or because we can end up down the ground, and I'll even dare to say that we go ahead and we might end up on the ground more times than we want to out in the street, we must have ways to get our butts up off the ground. But in order to do that, we must maximize our position so we make the best out of each and every single position right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and assume that we have 8 different positions down the ground. We have 4 we call inferior positions and 4 superior positions. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cover we call the inferior positions first. But the 8 positions really revolve around making sure that we understand mount positions, guard positions, cross-side positions, and we call north-south positions as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have Casey come on up under here, and he's going to get in my guard. The first position we have right here is the inferior position of being under someone's guard. Now, I understand in a lot of kind of jiu-jitsu circles and things like that, this may not be the worst position, and although I agree with them, it's once again, translate this to the street world. Do we want to be on our backs on a sidewalk? Do we want to be on our backs when we have the option of someone pulling out a weapon? Or let's say Casey is in my guard, it may be all fine, well and dandy, but if his buddy wants to come into it, there's nothing stopping that buddy from kicking my face in. So how do we maximize the position so I can go ahead and give myself as many options as possible, but also increase the leverage that I have as best as possible as well? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have Casey in my guard right here. And when he's in my guard, there are 2 kind of positions he can be in. He can be in a position where he's sitting way back here, just like this, okay? Or he can be in a position where he's close, okay? Good. Where do we want him to be? Do I want him to be close or do I want him to be farther away? Well, obviously, I want him to be as close as possible. Why? Because if he's far off like this, he can go ahead and he can punch. He has a better view of what's going on in the environment. And last but not least, if there is a person who can get up off the ground easier and faster, it's going to be this person. I want to take all those attributes, all those pluses away from him. And this is how I do it the best right here. First thing I do is I want to make sure that I grab an arm and I loop over an arm. Second thing that I do is one arm is going to be around the neck. And last but not least, I want to make sure that I close guard. But this is how I hold the person close. Now from here, I can go ahead and I can attack the arms, I can attack the neck, I can obviously do a number of reversals or sweeps or things like that, but it's all from this position right here. If Casey goes ahead and he sits back up, okay, a lot of those options are obviously taken away on my part, but also from him being far back like this, it increases the options that he has and that's what we do not want in this inferior position. But this is why we call it an inferior position, because naturally I am at a disadvantage right here. So what do I want to do to maximize this position right here? I want to go ahead and I want to lock around an arm, I want to lock around the neck right here, and I want to wrap a guard right here. The higher the guard, the better. Okay, I don't want to be low, I want to be high, just like this, but wrap around the arm, wrap around the neck, okay, and obviously wrap on the guard right here. Now from right here, I love this because now I'm more protected, and also from this option, now I can go ahead and start working my submissions, whatever they may be, as far as sweeps, arm attacks, or things like that, but it all comes down to maximizing this position right here. This is all about under guard. All right, the second inferior position that we're going to go over is being under cross-side. Now, what do we do in that situation? Once again, a very, very vulnerable position for me. It's great for Casey, but right now we don't care about him. We care about handling the inferior position. What do I do to maximize position, not only to protect myself, but also give myself enough options so I can go ahead and eventually get out of that position right there. Think of it this way. What I don't want to happen is I don't want to be flat on my back. You know, I had an instructor some years ago just kind of open my eyes to something that might seem very, very much common sense, but it didn't make a whole lot of common sense to me right when I started because I just wasn't aware of it. I assumed that when I was in cross-side, under cross-side position, I should just be flat on my back. The problem is that flattens out my torso and that increases his weight being on top of me. This is what I mean by this, is that if I have Casey just go ahead and lay on me and I'm laying flat on the ground just like this, all of his weight right here is up on me just like this, okay? And it was funny because I had this instructor say, hey, listen, why do you always just go flat on their back? Do you have to be flat on your back? After I thought about it for a while, I was like, no, I actually don't have to be. So we're gonna work that into maximizing our position right here, okay? The first thing we're gonna do is that I want this arm under his arm. Okay, so if Casey sets up what he would like to do, he would like to go ahead and make this lock right here and trap this arm right here. What I want to do is I want this arm under here and over on this side right here. That's the first thing I'm going to do to maximize this position. Second thing I'm going to do to maximize this position right here is my hand right here is going to be right here, and I like my wrist area. I don't like the hand so much to be on the hip right here, because if he would ever drop his hip, he's obviously putting my wrist in a very vulnerable position right here. I like to use my arm more or less. It gives myself a lot of margin for error right here. So this is what I want right here. So this arm is under his arm, this arm right here is against the hip, and then last but not least, instead of being flat, I want to go ahead and I want to be on my hip a little bit. So now my lungs are not nearly as compressed as they were when I was flat right here. But this is maximizing the position. Now from right here, if I want to, I can recompose guard. I can even attack the arms right here. If I want to loop back over and start attacking the neck, if I want to sweep, reverse, whatever I can do so much easier from this position as opposed to this position right here, okay? So once again, when we talk about being under cross-side, those are some things to keep in mind when we're practicing that position. All right, our third inferior position is under mount. Well, this is a killer one, right? This is the one we see in MMA fights where all of a sudden someone gets under mount, and in a lot of instances, it's pretty much the end of the fight in the next like 30 seconds or so, right? Okay, what can we do in this kind of situation to maximize this position to protect ourselves, but also open up as many options as possible? Well, a lot of it comes down to, once again, taking away what we don't want this person to have. I don't want this person to be nice, well, and rested. I don't want this person to be well balanced. I don't want this person to be high up in my armpits. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna reverse all of those, and this is what I'm talking about. So if I have Casey back here, he's gonna get on mount position right here. And he's gonna start with his knees all the way up in my armpits right here. This is a bad position right here. If you notice right here, Casey can touch my face, he can punch my face. I cannot reach his. Extremely vulnerable position right here. So what do we do in this kind of situation? First thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we shrimp, and if you have not checked out our shrimping video, we have a video just covering shrimping. We want to make sure that we go ahead and shrimp in this position so our elbows can be on the knees right here. We take the person's knees out of our armpits and we put it on our elbows right here. Second thing that we want to make sure we do is we protect our face however we can. Last but not least, I do not want this person sitting on up like this. This is maximizing his position. This is giving him maximum kind of power, given where gravity is completely on his side. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead, I want to bump up my hips, and I want to go ahead and put one leg right behind his rear end just like this. Now, why do we do this? Well, it makes it very, very difficult for him to go ahead and sit back up again from this position. And from this position right here, I have options where I can strike, I have options where I can go ahead and start rolling this person, and even easier escapes right here. So let's go ahead and break this down again. We're gonna start Casey up, knees in the armpits right here. We're gonna go ahead and shrimp out, elbows are on the knees, okay? Protecting the face, bumping up, and keeping this leg right here so they can't go ahead and get back to their main mount position right here. This is what I want from being under mount position. The fourth inferior position is what we call under north-south. Listen, if you thought that under someone's mount was an inferior position, just wait till you see this one. This one's a very, very difficult position to obviously be in, but also to protect yourself against, mainly because your arms are very, very vulnerable as well. So we're gonna talk about this and how to really maximize the position for the person who is under north-south. I'm gonna bring Casey out here, and he's gonna start just for his regular north-south position, kind of being chest to chest with me right here in this position. This is very, very bad for me in this particular situation right here because I don't have a whole lot of options. Could I possibly knee the top of his head? Maybe, okay? The problem is that he can hide his head really easily and things like that and keep it buried on my chest. So what I want to do to maximize this position is that I want one arm under right here, another arm under right here, okay? This helps it where now I can start wiggling out of this position, but that's not good enough. What I want to do is also bump to my hip as well, so I'm not being flattened by this person's chest. Even this person drops the weight all the way down on my head, so his belly is on my head right here, okay? I can still go ahead and still get plenty of air from this position right here, okay, all right? So once again, being in this position. Now, once I'm in here, now I can start going ahead, shrimping on out. I can go ahead and start reversing the position right here, going after the person's neck, but it all starts from right here. If I go back to where I started, right here, and he locks up the position where my arms cannot do a whole lot right here, man, this really limits the amount of options that I have right here. So as we get into this position, all I want to do is go ahead and get one arm under right here, second arm under right here, get to the side right here. Now, this is an easier position for me to start going. Like I said, you have to remember from this position, be careful. The arms are very, very vulnerable in this position right here. But once again, that's the reason why we don't want to stay here. All right, there we go. We have the 4 inferior positions. If you want to go ahead and click this video right here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cover the 4 superior positions and how to maximize those positions. Stay with us.